All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the 306 Fantasy Football Podcast. We are here recording for our episode 121. We're back recording on the Monday evening for our Wednesday episode. And Thursday night this week, we have the NFL draft. So that's kind of what we're focusing on here. In the last couple of years, we've focused on, the actual individual prospects, a little bit about their analytical stuff, what they've done in college, who we like, players, rank them. And then we kind of talked about them after, but it seems like lots of times our rankings changed a week later because of obvious draft landing spots, and I mean that's for obvious reasons. So we're pivoting a little bit this year, and we're going to focus more a little bit on the draft. We'll introduce some of the players and some of their analytical, statistical stuff that they did in college just a little bit, and then we're setting some lines, predominantly following the bet market set on Bet365 as well as FanDuel and DraftKings were the three predominant sites that we use to pull some of these stats. We're going to talk with some of the players, talk about possible landing spots as well as obviously the number of the lines set. So that's kind of where we're going with the episode this week, and then some draft day rumors in the mix there too. Even before we started recording, we were back and forth speculating on where some teams might get certain players, and Zach's like, "Okay, yeah, let's just fire it up and let's just save it for the episode here." Like we're giving all of our hot takes already. So well, that's kind of what we got on the docket today. But we'll say hello to the fellas and we'll fire it up here. So we'll start with Armand. Armand, what's been keeping you busy here in this weird Saskatchewan weather?
Oh man, getting ready for rugby season here. It's we just about ready to move outside and then the snow hit but this coming weekend on Saturday we're having a come and try rugby event. So if anyone in PA and area wanting to try rugby, send them out to the Carleton Community Center, and it starts at 9 o'clock, and it's for 13 to 18-year-old boys and girls, and all experience levels. And if they want to try rugby out, it's a great opportunity.
Awesome. And Zach, what about yourself? What's been keeping you busy? You guys didn't get as much snow as we did, I don't think, did you?
Well, if you guys got more than us, I my condolences.
We were about a
Uh
foot. I'd say probably between yeah, probably somewhere between 6 to 12 inch. My guess was about 10 inches, I bet.
yeah, that might be more than us, but yeah, like for us, geez, it felt like we're back in like February, back in March. It was real rude awakening after having a few really nice days. Had the Berks out, things were going good, and then
Dogs are barking.
I
it
wore
was
shorts to work the day before it snowed.
Unreal.
yeah, it's that sounds about right. It was pretty dumb. And it was like the heaviest, wettest snow I think
I
we've had all year.
I was about to say, I think that's the most snow we had all year, like more than like before the melt started. Like,
No, we had that one big dump where we literally had nothing, and then we got like 3 feet.
yeah, I guess so.
That one
Yeah,
was
we had
bad, but it
that.
was fluffy. Like it weighed nothing. This was just
Yeah.
sludge, like pure
Yeah, we had that
sludge.
one snow day in like I want to say like February.
Yeah, mid to late February.
Yeah, but it
Yeah,
was it was heavy stuff. It was not fun to move.
yeah, good times. We had Wells's my son's first birthday on Saturday, so that was a blast. It was football themed. Got to wear my jersey and crush cake and pizza and the whole 9 yards. It was a good time. I We bought a helium tank to fill up these balloons, and we had like football balloons, and I was sitting there filling them up, and of course, in true fashion, I was listening to a fantasy football podcast, and I'm just listening to the podcast, and I filled up this one like it's like a foil balloon. I filled it up with too much air, man. It bursted and it was so loud, it scared the hell. Like I was just listening, I was like, "Holy shit!" It kicked over my phone off the table. It was oh man, it was a Sunday morning where I was just kind of or Saturday morning I was just putzing around, but it was a good time, good turnout. Lots of family came, so it was a good little day, and hard to believe that's been one full year already. It's been wild. So, anyways, we'll get into the episode here. Like I said, we're talking a little bit about, and I'm turning into a bit of a game. I'll keep track of who we all pick predominantly Armand and Zach, I guess. But if I guess I can kind of get myself in the mix. It's not like I have a inside track on who's taking one. You're just because I hold the lines up, I guess. But we have some of the players. Some of them, the lines aren't as fun to be betting on or as fun to discuss because some of them are a little bit locked in. Like Caleb Williams, it's like minus 100,000 odds. Like you are not making money. Like period. You maybe make one penny betting on that, so it's not worth it whatsoever to go. Actually, the one line I think it was him minus 10,000 for the one, and then it was plus 104 or plus 14,000 or something like that for the field to go instead of him. So not a lot of fun betting on that one, but we do have some fun lines here. So I'll get things started, and I think we'll just kind of go in the same order if that works for you guys. I'll go the first one. I'll go Zach, and then Armin, then myself, and then the next one will go Armin, then Zach, then myself. I'll just go last every time as I'm introducing them, and then we'll kind of flip flop if that works for you. So the first one we're going to talk about here is the big three. So the rumor is the big three in any given, I guess, draft. I wouldn't even say maybe just these three because it fluctuates a little bit, but they have in no particular order. I'm gonna get you guys to try and pick the order of the first three draft picks. Now, we're recording here Monday. By the time we're on the clock Thursday, there's some teams that might trade in and out, and the pick may change, but we can speculate that the first three picks are probably going to be three quarterbacks. Regardless, I'm going to get you to pick who the first three picks at this time. The Chicago Bears are on the clock at 101, and then the Washington Commanders are at 102, and then the New England Patriots are at 103. So betting favorites right now at minus 225 is that it's Caleb Williams first, Jaden Daniels second, and then Drake May third. Then after that, it's plus 260, plus 500, plus 700, plus 2,000, plus 22,000, so on and so forth. And then it gets aggressive. But the big three, I guess big four in no particular order is Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, and then JJ McCarthy is starting to make some noise in those top four quarterbacks off the top. So we'll start things off here with Zach. Zach, you can tell me who you think the first three off the board is, and then I'll tell you based off your selection what the the line is for your selection.
Well, I think the conventional wisdom would say it will be Williams at 1 to the Bears, Daniels at 2 to the Commanders, and May at 3 to the Patriots. I think from what I have seen, a lot of the individual betting lines seem to indicate that is the case. From what I have heard most frequently from the likes of Adam Schefter and those folk is that the Commanders favor Daniels over May. So based on the betting that I have seen and that type of speculation, I think it's safe to lock those three players in that particular order. But I will say a very, very fun and exciting for me outcome would be Williams at 1, Jonathan James McCarty at 2 to the Commanders, and then a real bidding war for 103 there, with the Pats having both Daniels and May fall to them.
That would be plus 2,000. Plus 2,000 for Caleb Williams, JJ McCarthy, then Jane Daniels. 2,200 for Caleb Williams, JJ McCarthy, and then Drake May. So I mean, if that was putting some money on there, that'd be spicy. It'd be a lot of fun if that was the case, especially for betting folk. So Zach locking in the minus 225, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and then Drake May.
Yeah, that's what I think is most likely. Yeah.
Yeah. Armand, who are your three?
Well, Zach did a great job of breaking down those three picks, and man, that would be sure spicy to have JJ McCarthy go number 2. My more likely scenario, if it didn't go Jaden Daniels, would probably be Drake May, I think. So just to, instead of going chalk here, because we could all easily come up here and say Williams, Daniels, and then May or McCarthy, I'm gonna go Williams, May, Daniels.
That's kind of what I was leaning to too, is plus 260. So it's definitely not a favorite, but I just feel like I don't know. May was the favorite to go second. He was even there was times where there was talk he could be the one. Had an okay season, didn't win the Heisman like Jaden Daniels, but I still think he's the more well-rounded, safer prospect. I feel like teams that are looking for a
Mm-hmm.
franchise quarterback, this is your guy. I don't think he has the ceiling or the once again, maybe it's the fantasy talk in me that Jaden Daniels has that like ceiling the rushing platform, but I think I'm gonna go with you on that one too, Armin. I'm gonna go the plus 260 route. I'm gonna go the Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels. It's not the
And
favorite, but I feel like just there's always a big shakeup on draft day, and then imagine the trades that are gonna come
yeah.
flying in there when that hits. So I'll go the plus 260 option with you too there.
Well,
So
and the Commanders have Jacoby Brissett on their roster, who would be a great guy to have in front of Drake May to help Drake May ease himself into the NFL. Whereas I don't know if Jaden Daniels would necessarily benefit from a Jacoby Brissett the same way May would.
here's I mentioned trades. So here is the line set at the amount of trades in the first round. So we'll start getting into a few more players after this one, but Armin, you'll be on the clock first, then Zach to myself. The line is set at 6.5 trades in the first round. So imagine the Chicago Bears are not making a trade before this. They'll be locked in at the one, and then it'll be coming in at 6.5. So you need 7 trades to hit the over. Obviously, 6 trades to hit the under. So, Armin, are you taking the over or the under on trades in the first round?
I'm guessing that number is the average in the last few drafts, eh?
Actually, I don't even know, to be honest. I think it's probably did something to do with the average and then the amount of teams that are QB needy that are outside the top 10 would be my
Yeah.
guess. Or teams trying to trade up into the first round to get an extra year on the on the contract on the rookie contracts would be my guess, but speculating obviously.
You know what? I'll go with the over.
Harmon's taking the over. Zach, what are you thinking?
It would certainly be a lot more exciting, and it would make for great television come Thursday night if it was the over. But I want to take the under because I think that ties in well with what I had previously said about the top three
Yeah.
and that order. If that if those 3 players go in that order to those 3 teams, I think that greatly decreases the likelihood of multiple trades within the first 10 to 12 picks. Now, if New England, for instance, would be looking to trade out of that pick, I think that could set off a chain reaction where we could see a few trades in the top 12. For instance, I could even see the Patriots maybe making 2 trades in the top 12, trading out to say 11 with the Vikings. Vikings come up to 3, they get their quarterback that they desire, and then maybe from 11 the Patriots can move back into the top 10 to get that 4th quarterback potentially. I don't know, but right there that would be 2 trades. Now, if the top 3 go in that order, we might not see any of those trades. So I think it really depends on what the Patriots do, what the Cardinals do at 4. I think that has a lot of impact on what we might see. I think the most action though that we could expect to see, similar to what you said there, JC, would be teams trading into the first. Maybe not with an eye so much on getting that 5th year, that player or that team option, pardon me, but it would be teams trading into the back of the first round to get the receiver that they want or to get the offensive tackle that they want, because in that that zone from say, I don't know, 25 to 40, there's a cluster of tackles and there's a cluster of receivers that I think teams might really jockey for, either at the end of the first or very early in the second.
That's that's kind of the reason why I think I'm going to take the under, is just because the teams that are in the back, this is the first time in a long time where like they're needy for a specific position, i.e. the receiver. And there's so many receivers that have been mocked to go in the back end first, like, Lad McConkey's or Troy Franklin's, Xavier Worthy's, like those types of wide receivers. And there's teams, the Bills and the teams like the Chiefs, that are in the back of that first, even the Ravens, like those are wide receiver needy teams, and they don't have to trade up or trade back. Like this, there's so many wide receivers that could go in the first round. They could just sit pat and get above average to good wide receiver sitting in the first round, where other drafts they can't, or it's less likely to. So I feel like there's not gonna be those teams that are super, excited to trade up and get that premier wide receiver when there's the big three that are going to go early. Then after that, dealer's choice, where the rest of the guys kind of go. So I think I'm going to take the under. But Zach, which one did you actually lock in? I didn't write it down.
Locked in the under.
You are going to take the under. Okay, perfect. That's what I did too. Talking about wide receivers, we'll pivot into the wide receiver. So I got a few different draft positions for some wide receivers. But let's talk about, before we get into that, I suppose, let's talk about the amount of wide receivers that will be taken in this draft. So there is some big names. I already talked about just two that are speculated to, or sorry, three that are speculated to be at the back of the first. Some of the lines for those specific ones, which we'll get to. Xavier Worthy is setting at 30.5, which would put him right in the back of the first round. We have Brian Thomas Jr., who is set at 19.5. We have Rome Odunze, one of the big three. We have Marvin Harrison Jr., one of the big three. We have Neighbors, one of the big three. And then, like I said, we have a ton of wide receivers that could go, their lines are set at 32.5, 31.5, 30.5, right at the back of that first round. So possibility for lots of wide receivers in the first round. If not the first round, there'll be quite a few, I think, that'll go early second. But the line is set at 6.5 wide receivers in the first round. So we're back to Zach first on this one. Zach, are you going over or under 6.5 first round wide receivers in this draft?
Well, I am very stoked. Just as we were finishing talking about that last question, I quickly wrote down the names of the players that I think will get that first round draft capital. And I wrote down 7 wide receivers. So very happy to see that the line is 6.5 and not 7.5. So I'm going to take the over, because I think there are at least 7 guys that could go in the first round. I have Harrison, in no particular order. I have Harrison, Neighbors, Odunze, Worthy, Mitchell, McConkey, and Thomas. That's 7 right there. And like I said, I could also see like Xavier Legette or Franklin maybe getting in there. What would worry me though is I heard on a podcast that I listened to Saturday or Sunday, is that they speculated they could see some of these guys maybe drop as teams realize, shoot, there's so many talented wide receivers that we don't have to get like the one in the first round. We can maybe come back and get another one in like the second or third, and then go after like an edge defender or go after a corner where that talent pool is a little bit less in the first round.
Yeah.
But I still like these 7 guys to go in the first. And I don't know about you guys. Harrison's great. Neighbors is great. Like these guys are going to be great fantasy players. But Roma Dunze, that dude is a dude's like he's great. Like he plays big in the passing game and he blocks so well from what I've seen.
He's your guy. Hey, you believe in him?
He's somebody that I would be much more happy if he was on my NFL team than if he was on my fantasy
That's
team.
a good take right there. That's a
Like
good
for
take.
fantasy, like give me Harrison, give me Neighbors.
Yeah.
Ondunze though, like he's not going to be a slouch in fantasy, but I think he's going to be a lot more valuable NFL.
Yeah. I thought maybe you're taking a fantasy take there. I was like, ooh, because I am very pro Neighbors. So I was curious if you had him fantasy wise above or Dunze above Neighbors or not. So that's good that you dove into that one. So Zach, you're taking the over?
Yeah.
Armand, over or under?
I am also taking the over on this one. Kind of what Zach said with all those wide receivers, having that first round talent, potential, but then also looking at the teams that are wide receiver needy and who like would be willing to take a receiver in the first round. And I'm looking at 8 teams that I'm like, yeah, I could see them taking a receiver in the first round. And then you never know, trade ins, you get a receiver ongoing. I know there's that hesitation, with the class being deep, like Zach said, but I think once that ball gets rolling and everybody starts picking up receivers, teams are going to be like, no, we can't miss on the receiver that we have marked here. You might not make it to when we get to pick next. So I think due to a potential run and the talent that's there and the teams that need receivers, I'm going over.
I'll make mine easy. I'm gonna go with the over with you guys too, but mine is like a super hopeful over because like what Zach was saying, if they slide into the second round, we're gonna see some fantasy players like their value is gonna plummet. Like if a wide receiver goes to the Carolina Panthers, how could you be excited about that? When if they have a possible first round grade in the back end of the first round, you're looking at, teams that either won the Super Bowl, were making Super Bowl runs, or lost in the first round of the playoffs, right? Like like you go from the Baltimore Ravens, the Buffalo Bills, the Kansas City Chiefs to Carolina Panthers. Like I would
The
be
New
out.
England Patriots.
No comment. I just it's the same boat, like you have probably a rookie quarterback where rookie quarterbacks in their rookie seasons aren't great for fantasy options. So you're playing the long game for some of these talents that would be going early second round. It's just less confidence than, playing with Patrick Mahomes, playing with Josh Allen, playing with, um, even like Kyler Murray, if they trade back, don't take Marvin Harrison, and maybe they end up with a second round wide receiver. I don't see that happening, but that would be a lot more of a confident situation than playing something like there. So I'm gonna put the over just out of pure hope, I suppose, because like I said, I think that'd be a lot of fun. Let's get into a couple wide receivers here. So the first one we're going to talk about is a bit of a polarizing opinion. Some people really like him, some people not so much, and they kind of have him right down the middle. I think he is pretty much a lock at first round talent, but the line is set at 19 and a half, and that's Brian Thomas Jr. He is a wide receiver out of LSU, 6'3", 209 pounds, ran a 4.3340, and they have him set at 19 and a half. So if you're looking at the NFL draft, there are some very needy wide receiver teams, but a lot of them are in a situation where those first couple picks, right? Like we have New England, who needs wide receivers, Arizona, the Chargers, the Giants, Tennessee, Atlanta, I would say does not. Chicago does at 109. The Jets, not really. No. Minnesota, maybe. Denver, yeah. Las Vegas, yeah. New Orleans, maybe. Indianapolis, maybe. Seattle at 16. Jacksonville at 17, Cincinnati at 18, depending on, I guess, what they do with their situation there with their wide receivers. And then the last team at 19 is the LA Rams. So that's right, that 19 and a half sits, and then Pittsburgh's after them, and then obviously some wide receiver needy teams after. So this was a little bit of a fun one because it is outside of the big three. A lot of people have Brian Thomas Jr. as the fourth wide receiver in their individual rankings. So a fun one to kickstart. And we are back to Armand, sorry, at the first pick of this one.
Ooh, Brian Thomas at 19.5, you say, eh?
Correct.
Well, I am gonna go with let's go with the above on that one. If I want to get my over on the last one, got to stay consistent here a little bit too, and hopefully the fourth or fifth wide receiver ends up going before 19. That would make it a lot easier to hit that.
So you're taking the under?
Yeah, I'm taking the under 19.
Zach, are you what are you thinking there with Brian Thomas Jr.?
Yeah, I think Armand and I would be in agreement. I want to take the under 19 and a half, meaning that he goes before then. I really think Rodgers has the Jets by the balls, and what he says they are likely to do. So I think they're a good team to go after a skill player, a pass catcher, whether it be Bowers or a Thomas. The Colts need playmakers. They need to surround Richardson with more weapons. Denver and Vegas, they could be looking, if they don't go quarterback, they're teams rather that I think could look to surround their incumbent with more weapons. And then just like you mentioned, depending on what Cincinnati is thinking to doing with Higgins and his
Hold out, I
contract, his dispute or his not dispute, depending on who you ask. It might be a situation where, hey, like we're not looking to trade him, but shit, at 18 overall, Thomas just fell to us. Now we're looking to trade him.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go under 2. So let's make this spicy then. So we're all taking the under. Let's pick the team he lands to. 19.5. So you've got a couple double ups there. So I can't even say you have 19 teams. So there's a couple that draft twice in that first little bit. So try and pick your team of where he goes. So call on your shot. So I'll go back to Armin, then Zach, and then myself.
I'm gonna go real spicy here. Number 9 at the Bears. I'm gonna go Arizona, Chargers, Giants. I'll pick the top 3 guys, and then he goes to the Bears at 9.
That'd be hot. Because I'll save my take for a bit. I think that, well, I don't say, I think Odunze is going to Chicago. I think that's a lock. Like the line for Odunze, I think is at 8.5 or 9.5. I can't remember. I have to look. I have it written down in here. Rome Odunze at 8.5. So that would be spice. I guess in that theory, Armin would be hitting the under for the Rome Odunze. So, but a fun take nonetheless. So you're saying to the Bears, Zach. Who are you taking?
Yeah. So first, I agree with what you said there about Dunze and the Bears. I think that's a real pivot point for him. A lot of speculation for 2 months that with that number 9 overall pick, they're going to pair the quarterback with the receiver, and sooner than later have one of the better receiving rooms in the NFL with a rookie quarterback. I want to say 15 to the Colts.
15 to the Colts, eh? I'm having a hard time here because I feel like it's going to be a team that trades back. And like the Tennessee Titans need wide receivers. So like to me, that screams a team.
They got Burks, Hopkins, and Ridley.
Well, yeah, but are you saying Burks has panned out?
Oh, certainly not. But that's just a lot of draft capital and capital into
Hopkins
that position.
doesn't have much left. He is getting a little over the.
This is a guy that doesn't have to be a superstar year one. Like that's a team that, to me, I think would be a good landing spot for him. He's not the big 3. You let him go in there and take over, maybe, I guess. But like Denver's the pick, but Denver's gonna trade up. Like that 12 pick is not gonna be Denver's 12 pick. Like we didn't really talk at the top of the episode, but their newest little shiny toy, I guess you can't even say shiny. I don't know if it is a shiny toy or not, but like he's not gonna be their quarterback long term. Neither of them. It's what is it, Stidham and what's the name from BYU that just went there?
Zach
Look
Wilson.
at
Zach
Zach.
Wilson, thank you. Like neither of those guys are gonna be the guy this year. So I would be hard pressed to believe that Denver does not trade up. Um, yeah, I don't know. Like I want to say Denver, but yeah. I'm gonna stick with my guns. I'm gonna say Tennessee Titans miss out on the big four. They trade back and then they trade him the position TBD, but it'll be before the 19 and a half. And I'll say the Titans. I think the Titans. I think that's a little bit of a hot take there. Next one. I talked about Roma Dunze setting at 9.5, or it's at 8.5, sorry. So that would put him at the pivotal point before the Bears or after the Bears. So Roma Dunze is the line set at 8.5, and this one's Zach. Do you think he goes before 8.5 or after 8.5?
8.5 for a Dunze. I'm going to take the over because I think he goes to the Bears.
Armand?
I gotta stick with that theme that I was saying. I'm taking the under on it.
Taking the under.
Yeah.
I'm going to go the over. I also think he's going to go to the Bears. Next one here, we have, I'll go through a couple of these a little bit quicker here. We got Xavier Worthy. Xavier Worthy is a fun one. He is sitting currently at the 30.5, which for those of you that do not have the draft board in front of you, Baltimore Ravens are the 30th, and then the 31st is the San Francisco 49ers. So that would mean a lot of people have him either going to Baltimore or before that. But a little bit about a Xavier Worthy. And those of you that didn't watch the combine, he's fast. Like, he's really, really fast. Prospect coming out of Texas at 5'11", 165 pounds, ran a 4.21 40-yard dash, blazing fast. So I think this would be a really fun landing spot, depending on, team dependency, what you believe in the player. Two prospects that come out of Texas that could be a lot of fun this year. So the line is set at 30.5. Like I said, that pivotal point there, first round option. You still could go in those last two picks and be a first round prospect, still get the extra year option on the rookie contract. But for betting markets, it is set at that 30.5. We're back to Armand on this one. Armand over under on Xavier Worthy 30.5.
I think I'm going with the over. And this doesn't change the way I think about everything else. It's just I think his slender frame is even though he's ranked at on the site I'm looking at right now, the 7th prospect for wide receiver, I think he ends up becoming 8 or 9 in the draft just because of his size, and teams are a little skittish of that. So yeah.
And so you're taking the under. Is that what you said, Armand? Under?
No, he's getting
Over.
drafted after 30.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. So you're taking the over.
Yeah.
Armand, taking the over. Zach, where are you on this one?
Yeah, he is Xavier Worthy is like is it Nelly from The Longest Yard? He makes fast guys look not so fast or something.
Yeah. He's fast. He's so fast he makes fast guys look not fast.
Yeah, like that's him. I think he holds that record at the combine, like you mentioned. So he's a freak. And looking in that ballpark of teams that could use a field stretcher, a home run shot, that's like the sweet spot, eh? Like Baltimore at 30, San Fran maybe at 31, or the Chiefs there at 32. I saw a fun one today on Twitter, and it said, "What if Mike McDaniel's just goes YOLO and pairs him up with Hill and Waddle at 21?" And that would just be nightmare fuel for the entire AFC East.
Big time.
But I think, geez Louise, this is a good one. I'm going to say the under, meaning that he's going to go before. It's 30 and a half or 29 and a half.
It's 30 and a half.
Okay, yeah. I'm going to take the under just because I think what he brings to the plate in terms of, or brings to the table, pardon me, in terms of his unique speed is going to be very desirable. Is it, what I would want my favorite team to do? If you're drafting at the back portion of the first round, maybe, but I would probably be looking more at a guy like AD Mitchell or Lad McConkey, somebody that I think can kind of go over the middle, but also stretch the field a little bit.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you, Zach. Like, do I think he should be a first rounder? I don't think so. I think I think we could be 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road, being like, oh, he's a one-trick pony. This was a miss. But it also could be like, he's Tyreek Hill. He's really, really good. So like my just individual of watching him, like he wasn't a guy like just watching his tape. I was like, yeah, he's good. And then I think so many people are like, oh, he broke the record for the fastest person ever on the combine. He's going to be unreal. Where it's like speed is only like one aspect of the game. Especially with the type of defense that the NFL runs now with that over the top cover two, take away the top and then force everybody underneath. Like, is that going to be a guy that excels in fantasy? Look at Tyreek. He scored so many touchdowns over the top field stretcher, and now everything is on the line of scrimmage. Give him space and let him just evade tackles. That's how he's getting his fantasy points now too. So, like a lot of things go into play there. That I think like, is he going to be a boss? Like I don't think so. But is he going to be this elite prospect? I don't think so either. So, I think I'm with you, Zach, too. I think it's the under, but I just would be disappointed if my team took him in the first round. That's my opinion. Whether that's worth anything or not, but that's just me using my eyeballs, and that's my 2 cents. So, the next one here we have on the board, it is going to be Zach first, then Armand, then myself. We have let me look at my papers here. Let's go to some quarterback one because this one let's go back to the quarterback position because this one we had a good discussion on pre-recording. And then we're like, let's save it. So JJ McCarthy, very polarizing opinion. We went from he's not even a first rounder, probably an early second rounder, to all of a sudden, lots of teams are interested in him in the first round. Really look at possibly, Minnesota taking him as the last quarterback off the board in the big groupings. Then all of a sudden we're in the hot takes of JJ McCarthy going second overall, and we lived this the last couple of years where somebody catches wind down the stretch and all of a sudden it's like, oh my goodness, he's gonna go second. Last year it was what's his name that puts mayo in his coffee. Like it was
Levis.
Levis. He went from not being drafted in the first round to all of a sudden being the 102. There's a lot of people that made money taking the over on that one as he slid. The year before that, it was Malik Willis. All of a sudden, the Lions were taking him in the 102. I was like, there's just no way. And then he slides right back out of the first round. So is this going to be one of those ones where once again, we're buying the offseason hype and he is going to drop out of the first round or be, a later first round pick and not this high prospect? Or is he going to be, a top 10 draft pick or a top 5 draft pick? Because right now the line is set at 5.5. That's what the line for JJ McCarthy is. So I don't know if that's necessarily like it's because there's a quarterback drop there, or if it's just because it's a nice split between Minnesota at 11 and the number 2 pick. So we're starting with Zach, and let's do 2 parts to this. The first, tell me your over under. Then we'll come back to you and say who you think which team takes them. So
Okay.
over under at 5.5, Zach.
Oh, that's a fun one because that's saying presumably either top 3 or a team trades with what is it? Either the Cardinals or the Chargers, right?
Correct.
So, and that Chargers one is very fun. I think very, very fun because the Chargers are coached by JJ's former college coach,
Correct.
Harbaugh, who loves him some JJ McCarthy. So there is a sentiment, I think, that Harbaugh could potentially decide what team JJ goes to. I don't think he would do a disservice to his current employer, his current team, and take a lesser deal from somebody. But I think he's going to do what he can, given the opportunity to set JJ up. And I really like JJ. Um, in my quarterback rankings, I have Williams, Daniels, and then it's probably an even split between May and McCarthy.
Okay, so just before we keep going, Zach, is that your fantasy, like for fantasy points, or is that like NFL prospect?
That's who I like real NFL.
Yeah, okay.
Honestly, flipping the top two, probably it would probably be that same
Yeah, for dynasty or for fantasy.
fantasy. Yeah. Um, especially for dynasty. Um, so, and I think the only reason why I would gun to my head pick May over McCarthy is because, like you mentioned a while ago, there's that name brand that we have been, uh, familiar with May since last year. Teams were like, okay, like next year in 2024, Drake May, Caleb Williams. Those are going to be the two guys for that number one pick. And for over a year, we've had Drake May, this, that, and the other. And only since that natty championship run has there been like any type of drumbeat to McCarthy's NFL first round, prospects.
Yeah.
But I do like what I've seen, a lot of the write-ups that I've read about him, the podcasts that I've listened about him. I think there's a lot to like. He brings so much to the table in terms of intangibles. And I know that doesn't win you games, but it could win you a locker room.
Mm-hmm.
And between those intangibles and his age, like he's only 21 years old. He turned 21 at the end of January. I teach kids in my program that are older than JJ McCarthy. Like it's really interesting that a guy this age is so mature, so level-headed, so about his business. So if he doesn't go to the Pats and he goes somewhere else, like this is a guy that I kind of want to like root for in that sense.
Yeah, I can share that sentiment for sure.
So with 5.5, I am going to say I might be buying the hype here a little bit, buying into the hype machine, but I am going to take the under on that. I could see it going QB, 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 so 4 in a row, or Q, 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 receiver, Q, with him going at 5. So I'll take the under.
Interesting. Armand, what's your thoughts?
I know the Vikings need a Q and they want a Q, and they've been really doing their due diligence on the quarterback position. I was listening to a podcast and like they had some insider knowledge, and like it sounds like the Vikings like have been targeting this draft class for a few years, and have been really doing their due diligence on every single quarterback, and they know who they want, and I think they're gonna go target who they want. And I'm honestly thinking it's JJ McCarthy. So I think they're gonna trade into a position to get him. The only way I think that they wouldn't go JJ is if somehow they can get a deal to get Jaden Daniels. But I think they're targeting JJ here. And yeah, they're gonna go for it. So whether that's the Cardinals or the Chargers pick, I think they're trading into it, and I think they're taking them.
Okay, well, so you're taking
Taking the under as well.
Okay.
And you know what? Like I believe in the hype too around him. It's a different type of hype than it was around Will Levis, who it was just like, look at the cannon of an arm this guy's got and a physical specimen he is. No, like with JJ, it's like he's got all these intangibles. He's a grown up at his age. Like he's really mature. He's like the next Kirk Cousins, but more athletic, and which is perfect for the Vikings offense, apparently, right? And he's a smart kid and really plays the system well, but when he's had to put the weight on his shoulders, he's done good things. They people point out like, yeah, in Michigan they ran the ball a lot and he barely got to throw, and but you know what, when you look at his statistics in those situations where he did have to throw, he was damn good. And it it also is a testament to like how good he has to be to stay focused for that long after handing the ball off as many times as he does in a game, that when his number is finally called, that he still executes to a high level.
This is tough, man. Because I'm taking the over. I'm taking the over. A combination of a lot of things. The burns in the past, the historical hype a guy up and then he drops. I really want to say he goes to the Vikings right at 11, but there is some teams in front of them that need quarterbacks. Like I can see Denver just jumping them straight from 12 to 10 with the Jets and taking McCarthy. Like that's a very real possibility, but it's still an over. There's a lot of rumors that the Giants straight up at 6 are going to take him. People are trying to trade to the Giants to take a quarterback, but the Giants very likely could just take a Q. There's
The
a
Vikings
lot
aren't
of
going to let that happen, man.
well, they would
And
have to go to they would have to go to the 4 or 5.
yeah, and that's what I'm like. They have to
Yeah,
trade to get
have to.
him.
I don't see Arizona risking out on trading out of the 4 and letting Marvin Harrison go to the Chargers at 5. Because how does the Chargers say no to Marvin Harrison Jr. with their wide receiver room they have? I just don't see Arizona risking that. So yeah, I'm gonna say over, but we're gonna come back to this. Give me a team, Zach. Give me a team that he's gonna go to.
So since like February, probably even earlier. Like, who am I kidding? Probably since like December. The draft has been like my obsession. Um, Probably even going back earlier, as soon as I realized the Pats sucked and that Mac Jones wasn't coming back, getting a Q and this
Zap zap
draft.
zappy.
Yeah, Zappy ain't it. Um, it's been my obsession and it's been my Twitter just like constantly refreshing, just like obsessive Charlie Day, different colored string, like just an absolute freak. Like my wife's gonna be so thrilled when the draft is over.
Yeah, it'd be perfect
Um,
timing because then you're into dynasty draft time.
yeah, she doesn't know that though. Anyway, so I've picked up a few new Twitter people that I follow. Thor Nystrom, he is a fantasy guy, but big time Minnesota Viking fan, and he's been behind that drum for JJ to the Vikes for a long time. Somebody else that I started following recently, Purple Persuasion, kind of like super fan kind of Twitter thing there with the Vikes. They have been behind that drum with the Vikings. So, and a lot of what they say makes really good sense in my opinion. So I'm going to say the Vikings. If I haven't said the Vikings already, I'm going to say the Vikings. They're going to trade up to either the 4 or the 5 spot to take JJ. And the reason why I say it's going to be them more so than those other teams, whether it's the Raiders or the Broncos, it's because no team has the capital that the Vikings have. The Vikings have 11 and 23 in this year's draft, and they'll probably have to throw in a first next year. So
Yeah, they
that's
load up
three
that
ones.
23rd like a month ago. And everybody's
Yeah,
like, oh, they did it so they could do this exact thing that you're talking about.
exactly. So we're talking 3-1s. Now, other teams, they can do 3-1s, but it would be this year, next year, and the year after. And that like that 2026 first, some of these GMs, like what good is that to them? They might be gone in a year, in 2 years. They might not get to use that pick. The guy that replaces them might get to use that pick. So I think getting those 2 firsts this year is like an absolute trump card for the Vikings. And like Armin said, I don't think they're going to let a team outbid them. If it's close, I think they're always going to go a little bit more, I think, because the Vikings aren't going to be in this position again to make this kind of pick. Their roster is stacked, in my opinion, outside of the queue. Had Cousins not missed the majority of last season, they're not picking at 11. Like this offense is ready to go now. Like the only thing holding them back is this quarterback position. And I would be confident in saying that they realize Darno is not the answer.
Mm-hmm.
He could maybe be a bridge for a little bit until this rookie has their legs under them. But I don't think they're being like, we're going to get 17 games, 18 weeks out of Sam Darno. Like this roster is ready to go now. And
That's
I
why
think
that
they know
shocks
it.
me. That's why it shocks me so much they just didn't re-sign Kirk Cousins.
I think they may have misread kind of like the market on him. Or
Like,
they were or they were all the way out.
they're so undervalued what Atlanta was willing to give them. Like Atlanta gave them a crap load of money. So like let's not kid ourselves. But like if that's your it like like you could have used that first round. Like obviously they wouldn't have traded for that extra first round, but they would have still had the 11 pick. You could have used that. You would have maybe hoped that what's the name, Joe Alt, that offensive lineman from Notre Dame,
Yeah, even if they don't get him, like there's like 2 or 3 other really talented tackles that
or
would be
another
in the discussion.
impactful defensive player. You know, like
Yep.
there's like
So I
why,
think
but yeah,
I think they
regardless.
misread. I think they misread the market there on Cousins a little bit. Maybe they didn't think that interest was going to be there, and so now I think they're in a position where, like, if they don't get a impactful quarterback in this draft, they're going to be sitting there with like we have like this fantastic car, huge engine, everything's great, except we're missing a steering wheel. And we're using like a vice grip to turn this damn thing around here. Like they just don't have that meaningful piece.
Well, I kind of hope it happens, TBH. But Armin, are you know, obviously you already said you want Minnesota, but Minnesota at 5 was your take.
4 or 5, and I thoroughly believe it. Like nobody's outbidding them. They're gonna make sure that they get it. Like I said, like from what I heard too, like they've been eyeing up this draft for a bit. So like they're determined to get a Q here. They're not gonna miss out on it. So they're not gonna let a team outbid them, and they're gonna have to go. They're just gonna go get them.
I'm so
Um,
oh sorry. I'm so torn because there's a very real world where it goes Marvin Harrison 4, then it goes Malik Neighbors 5, and then it goes JJ McCarthy to the Giants 6. That's a very real world. And I think maybe that's why this is a 5.5 line, because those are the
Mm-hmm.
two teams that would trade out and it would go to that spot. And then 6 is where, like, I, I don't even want to speak into existence because I want McCarthy to go to the Minnesota. I want him to succeed. I like I said, like I share the sentiment that Zach said. I want him to succeed. You want to cheer for him. He's not going to succeed with the Giants. The Giants roster. If you want to giggle, go read their active roster right now. Like just go read the names on not even just their defensive side of the ball, but their offensive side. Like it's not good, and he's not going to succeed in New York. So uh, I'm going to say at 11. Rated 11.
Smash that over. Smash
Yeah,
the over. They get a
going
sit and
over.
pick.
It's going over. Anyhow, that's what I said before. I think, hey, remember we were in the spot 2 years ago, or was it 3 years ago? No, it was the COVID year, and this was the Mac. So it was Mac Jones. Remember, we
Yeah.
were talking that the Patriots are going to have to trade up to get a Q. They're going to have to trade up, or else they're not going to get one. And at 15, it just fell right in their lap. Like,
And look how that turned out.
well, we're talking about the same guy. We're talking about a quarterback that's outside the big three names. Mac Jones was kind of in that, the 3-4 fluctuating. Could he make his way up there? There was times that they're talking Mac Jones at 102 to San Francisco. It would have failed just as much as
Trey Lance.
as Trey Lance did anyways. It would have been a failure. But same thing, there was talks that he was gonna be the 102. He was gonna make his way all the way up there, and that's who they traded up to get. So I just feel like there's so many, parables across the board from these two. I hope he succeeds more. No, that's the honest truth. But I just feel like Minnesota, you're not gonna have to. The only thing that might happen is Denver might leapfrog you, but Denver doesn't have the assets to do that. So yeah, I think they get him right at 11. I think they get him right at 11. And that, I think, is a bit of a spicy take because that would be super risky. And I can only imagine nerve-wracking for that front office with that extra first, just hoping that nobody else leaps you.
Can I chime in here?
Yep.
Armin, this one's for you, buddy. I said 11. Like, for me, as a Pats fan, I would, if the Pats were to make this trade for May or for McCarthy or for Daniels, 11, 23, 25 first, and something else like a second would be what I would be. That would be like the floor for me to be happy with them trading with the Vikings, the Pats trading with the Vikings. What would be too much, in your opinion, for the Vikings to come to third, to fourth, to fifth? What would be too much?
Oh, yeah.
Are you cool with 3 firsts?
Yeah.
You're cool
Yeah,
with 3 firsts.
I'm cool with the 3 firsts. Now the add-ons on top. Maybe one more piece. I don't know. Maybe a third. I guess I could talk myself into being okay with a second being given out as well. But as far as those first, like you were saying, the roster is pretty good already. Like it's a roster that's ready to go. It needs help on defense yet too. So you don't want to give out too much in your draft capital in order to help fix your defense a little bit. But
They didn't trade Hunter, did they? They still have Hunter, right?
I think he went to Houston.
Or
he went to Houston, but we got Houston's edge rusher, Greenall or whatever.
it was in free agency he went.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I don't think they traded him at the deadline because I remember him playing in week 17, but I couldn't remember if he went in free agency or not.
Yeah, Hunter signed with the Texans, and then we got their Greenall.
Now what about this, Armand? And this is obviously coming from several Patriot beat writers, so their lens is like you gotta sell the goddamn farm and then some, right? Like you gotta really make it worth our while. Something that a few people have batted around would be the Patriots getting 11, 23, and then either like a Jordan Addison to fill in a receiver need for the Pats, or Christian Darrisaw tackle to fill a very glaring need on the Pats. So you're doing 2 firsts this year and then a starting offensive player.
Ooh.
Which Addison was a first rounder last year and panned out, so it has improved from the first rounder he previously was.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd want that. To be honest, like
there's something to be said about the unknown, where it's like, oh, I didn't know that pick would have panned out, like, but you already have a blue chip prospect that has panned out. So to me, that's surpasses a value of a first round. Sorry, I'm talking for you, Armin, but that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. And I think they're not gonna target the Pats. Is it like I think the ask would be too high targeting the Pats, with the Pats also needing a QB.
Well, you think they would take McCarthy at 3? Like you think they would pass on May or whoever it is that falls in that 2?
Who, like the Pats would pass, or that the Vikes?
Do you think the Vikings would trade up from 11 and still, excuse me, still take McCarthy at 3, Armand?
Yeah,
Or do you think they would take May or Daniels?
I think they're locked. Well, I I think it'd be hard for them to pass up Daniels if he falls. Like that'd be one heck of a pass up for McCarthy, I think. Um, but I think if it went Williams and then Daniels, I think if they traded up into that 3 spot, they'd still be going after McCarthy.
So then why overpay to the 3 when you can go cheaper to the 5 or the 6?
Well, and that's what I'm saying. Yeah, like I don't think they'd be necessarily targeting the 3 unless they feel that the Patriots are going to take McCarthy.
Like if you're going to trade up, you have to go in front of the Giants, I think. It's just too risky to
Yeah.
let the Giants make their selection.
No, I agree. And that's why I think they're going to make that trade too. Just because the Giants are sitting there, and then you don't want anyone else leapfrogging you, anyways, too.
Zach's just trying to talk you into the Vikings just giving up their left and their right to try and get the 103.
Yeah, I want 11, 23, Darisaw, and Addison.
And I want your pancakes too.
Yeah, and David Putney.
Yeah, just because I feel like it. Oh, speaking of, we didn't do a quick question because I think we did this last year, but Draft Day Tradition, the night before, I always watch that movie, period. And I know we're making the big donation the night before, but it's not out of question that I will be watching that movie Wednesday night before Draft Day. For those of you that are unfamiliar, we're talking about the Kevin Costner Draft Day. Most unrealistic movie in the history of football movies, but so good.
Yeah, taking a middle linebacker, 1 overall.
Yeah.
That's the most unrealistic part.
Yeah, that's the only part.
Yeah.
The most realistic part is that he was dating his assistant. That's probably the most realistic part of the whole
mean, the fact that they were dating and in a like healthy consensual relationship, I don't know if that's
that's where it gets unrealistic.
Yeah.
This is the NFL we're talking about here. Okay, let's do one more. I was gonna do the Bo Nix, the Penix, whether they're a first round or not. I'm gonna leave that one because we're running short on time here. But there's one tight end that's worth talking about in this draft. I think there's one more that's starting to catch a little bit of buzz in the fantasy world as we start moving forward here, but the draft capital might squash that. But there's one, it's Brock Bowers, that we know is a first round talent. I think is going to be very, very good. Hopefully can surpass surpass the burns from some of these first round talents we've seen in the last couple of years and the years that it takes them to get going. But Brock Bowers, the line is set at 12.5. Now, 12.5 is an interesting one because I think a lot of people have, me personally, I have the Jets, the New York Jets at 10 pegged to take them. They have wide receiver options, but another pass catcher at a different position would be a difference maker for the Jets at 10. But the line set at 12.5. I'm going to check my papers to see where we're at here. It's Armand, Zach, and then myself. So Armand, Brock Bowers, the unbelievable tight end from Georgia. Do you have him at the over or under 12.5?
Oh, this one is a tough one. The only team really though that would probably take him would be the Jets if I went with the under. But there is that talk of the Jets. But I'm gonna take the over on this one and hope that the Jets shore up their O-line instead of picking a tight end. But the argument is they might try and do both, get a pass catcher and shore up their O-line by getting a tight end.
6'3", 243 pounds, and a 99 production score for the tight end position on the draft prospects here. Zach, where do you have him landing, I guess, over, under, and then if you have a team, I suppose.
So I'm going to take the under. So he'll go before pick 13. And I am going to kind of, as soon as we started talking about this, I circled the Jets here on my paper. And then you said the Jets. So you and I like minds on that one. But I also wouldn't completely write out the Denver Broncos, especially if they decide, well, obviously, if they decide to pass on making a play for a top flight quarterback. Looking at their depth chart, we got Adam Troutman, Greg Dolsch, and a Capri Sun. Like it's not great. So and he's a difference maker. Like he's a bona fide difference maker in the passing game. So that wouldn't shock me in the least bit if Denver went uh, tight end if he's available. But like you said, I like the New York Jets.
We got about 5 minutes left here, Zach. Out of the three of us, I think we are all, big draft guys. We love it. It's a good time, but I think out of the three of us, I'd be lying to say that if I didn't believe Zach would be the one with the boots on the ground, the nose to the grindstone with the draft time. So any hot take you got for us here? I know it's not technically your big ice cold hot take. A lot of our takes here, I think, were hot today, but anything spicy that you've been sitting on that you think, hey, pay attention to. This could be a lot of fun come draft time well, I guess by the time this drops one day, but as we're recording 4 days away,
What's the most likely RB to go in the first round?
there won't be zero, period.
Ask me about the third round, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a hot take or not, but I could see 5 quarterbacks going in round 1. I think Penix, for all the naysayers, I do think he has his supporters. For me, Penix, though, a little bit scary. He's just a little bit older than everybody else. Like he's I think a full 4 years older than May and McCarthy. A lot of knee injuries there, but what he does well, he does very well. So I think he could go in the first round, especially maybe mid to late there. And you said 6.5 receivers. I could see Xavier Legette being a receiver that a team picks in the first round that some people might say Xavier Legette, South Carolina, who the heck is this? But he is somebody that
look at his Pro Bowl stats.
Or Senior Bowl.
Senior Bowl, sorry. Thank you.
He's somebody that not only went to the same school as Deebo Samuel, but he went to Deebo Samuel University. Like he looks just like Deebo. And from what I've seen, he plays the game just like Deebo. They're built the same and they play the game the same. So
don't watch any of his tape from before his senior year. You're not going to find anything.
A definite flash in the pan one that there. Somebody that I don't like is Keon Coleman. Could be PTSD from N'Keal Harry, but Keon Coleman is somebody that I would not be thrilled with the Pats taking or my favorite NFL team taking. And he is somebody that I am staying away from in dynasty rookie drafts.
Yeah. Good thing I mentioned that one too. Giants just take him. Giants take him, or like Carolina take him, save us the headache and just make fantasy football fun for everyone. Done deal.
Yeah.
This is a fun time, and this is the first time that I can remember that the Lions are not drafting in the top 10 when it comes to draft day. Like I gotta sit and actually wait until 10 o'clock at night to watch the Lions make their draft pick. This is gonna be awesome. And by that point, who knows? Maybe they trade out, and there's teams that are make some exciting. I think they're gonna go defensive side of the ball. I think they're gonna go a little Kool-Aid there. Get a little Kool-Aid up in Detroit. I think that'd be awesome. Lots of connections to Alabama the last couple drafts with the new coaching staff and the new management. So it's gonna be a fun time of year. I'm excited for this one. I also mentioned at the top there, not the top, just in the last like 10 minutes though, that we are making our big donation. So stay tuned for us on social media here. We're going to be heading down there Wednesday, and the post will either come out Wednesday after this episode is dropped, or it'll be Thursday, the day following too. So take care, everybody. Thanks again for listening to the episode. Thanks again for listening to the podcast. It's a fun time of year for everybody. So be watching for the draft. Have fun, and we'll talk soon on episode 122. Take care, everybody. Talk soon.